I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to get blindsided like this, especially not on what was supposed to be the best day of my life. Amber and I had been together for 5 years, and everyone, friends, family, kept telling me I hit the jackpot. She was gorgeous, confident, sharp-tongued, but charming when she wanted to be. We decided to get married because we genuinely loved each other, or so I thought. The wedding was a big deal for us, big guest list, fancy dress, the whole 9 yards. Honestly, I was happy, excited even. I've been looking forward to that day forever. But from the moment Amber started acting weird in the weeks leading up to the wedding, I couldn't shake this gnawing feeling. It was subtle at first, little things like her avoiding my eyes, being extra defensive whenever I mentioned the bachelor party, or suddenly being busy the day I was finalizing the last vendor payments. She'd dismiss my concerns with that bitchy smirk and say I was overthinking, that I was insecure. She'd say things like, "Relax, babe, I'm only yours, stop being so paranoid," with a dismissive laugh. Maybe I should have listened then, but I loved her too much to think she'd betray me. The day of the wedding itself was perfect on paper. Beautiful weather, everyone dressed to the nines, the ceremony went smoothly. Amber looked stunning, radiating confidence and sparkle. But by the time we checked into the hotel for the honeymoon suite, I started sensing something was off. She kept her phone close, kept glancing at it like she was hiding something. I caught her sneaking texts, and once I saw a message pop up that made my stomach drop, something about "can't wait to see you tonight" from a number I didn't recognize. When I asked her about it, she just rolled her eyes and said it was her sister texting her about the dress she was going to wear to the reception. I was too swept up in the moment, too happy, to think much of it then. But deep down, I felt the first prick of doubt. Still, I told myself I was just paranoid. It was our wedding night, the start of our new life, and I was determined to enjoy it. We went to the honeymoon suite, and honestly, I tried to ignore the weird tension that refused to go away. During the night, she was distant, distracted, and when I tried to be romantic, she was bitchy, snapping at me about how tired she was or how she didn't feel like sex. I figured she was just nervous, or maybe she was tired from the day. I didn't push because I wanted everything to be perfect. But then late that night, about 3 in the morning, everything changed. I was drifting off when I heard the loudest, most awful noise coming from the hallway. It sounded like a fight, a lot of shouting, the kind of noise you don't mistake for anything else. I got up, thinking maybe it was just some guests being loud, but then I heard a woman's voice, her voice loud and angry. I couldn't believe my ears. It was Amber, and she was arguing with someone. The words were muffled, but I caught enough to realize they weren't talking about some random hotel issue. It was explicit, heated, and unmistakably about sex, about something they had done. I froze, stomach twisting, heart pounding. I was trying to process what I just heard when the door to the suite swung open and I saw her, Amber, standing there. Disheveled, eyes wide with panic, trying to cover herself. She saw me and froze, her face draining of color. "Jay," she stammered, "it's not what you think." That was her first stupid excuse, but I already knew. I saw the other guy, some guy I didn't even recognize, standing behind her, equally stunned. I looked down at her, my mind racing, my whole world crashing down in that single moment. She lied, she cheated, and I knew right then that everything I thought we had was a lie. I couldn't even speak for a second. My mind was a whirlwind of shock, betrayal, and anger. I looked at her and saw the betrayal written all over her face. She was trying to act innocent, like she didn't just get caught in the act, but it was too late for that. The room felt like it was closing in on me. I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears, every second feeling like an eternity. I knew I had to confront her, but I didn't want to yell or accuse blindly. I needed to see how deep this really went. "Who is he, Amber?" I managed to get out, my voice trembling but steady. She stammered, trying to come up with some excuse, some lie that could somehow make this okay. "He's just a friend," she said, voice flinty and defensive, eyes darting. "You don't understand. It was a mistake, I swear. It didn't mean anything." That excuse, like most of her others, sounded hollow. I could see through her lies instantly. She'd been cheating on me for weeks, maybe longer. That wasn't just some drunken mistake, that was calculated, planned. And now I was drowning in the realization that I was a fool for not seeing it earlier. She kept insisting, trying to spin her way out of it, throwing in the classic "you're overreacting." "I love you, Jay, and it's just sex. It doesn't mean I don't love you." But honestly, that just made me angrier. I wasn't some naive guy who'd buy her bullshit anymore. I knew her well enough to see that she lied without batting an eye, and that made the blood boil even more. I stepped closer, my fists clenched, and I told her, "You've been lying to me, haven't you? All this time, huh? All those hours. You claimed you were busy, all those late nights. Were you fucking him too on our wedding night?" Her face twisted into a sneer, trying to dismiss it, but I saw her eyes flicker with guilt and defiance. She shot back with a bitchy tone, "Honestly, Jay, you're so paranoid. I was just talking to him, you're overthinking everything. You always do this, blow things out of proportion." That was the moment I realized she wasn't going to admit the truth. Not without a fight. I felt my stomach twist again, but this time it was with a different kind of rage. I had been naive, maybe even stupid, thinking I was building a future with someone I could trust. But now I saw what she really was, someone selfish, manipulative, and willing to throw everything away for a quick sex fling with my best man. And here's the kicker. The guy she cheated with, Mark, my so-called best man, was standing just a few feet away, silent but clearly caught. I knew I had to get out, had to walk away from this nightmare, but I was frozen, overwhelmed by everything. The hotel room suddenly felt smaller, darker, like the walls were closing in. My mind kept replaying every moment, her sneaking texts, the way she'd brush me off, her bitchy attitude that day, all of it leading to this moment. I finally managed to whisper, "You're not who I thought you were, Amber. I trusted you with everything." And when I looked into her eyes, I saw her smirk, that same smirk she always used to dismiss me, to make me doubt myself. That was the last straw. I turned around and stormed out of the room, leaving her standing there, furious and defiant. I didn't even pack a bag. I just grabbed my keys and left the hotel, feeling like I was walking out of my life. I didn't know what I was going to do next, but I knew I couldn't stay. I was betrayed on the worst day of my life, and all I could think about was how I was going to pick up the pieces now. I got into my car and just sat there for a long time, staring at the hotel behind me. My hands were shaking, my head pounding with 1,000 thoughts. The adrenaline from the confrontation hadn't worn off. Yet, and honestly, I felt like I was in some kind of nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I kept replaying everything. The sound of her voice, the way she lied so effortlessly, the disgust I felt when I saw her trying to cover herself up in that doorway. It was like my mind was trying to process a collision of betrayal and heartbreak all at once. The first thing I did was call my best friend, Tom. I needed someone I could trust to talk me through this. I didn't want to call my family just yet. I knew they'd be furious and probably tell me to cut her loose right away. Tom picked up on the first ring, and I didn't even try to sugarcoat it. I told him everything, the discovery, her lies, the guy, the hotel, the whole damn mess. He was silent for a beat, then said, "Dude, I'm sorry. That's brutal. You gotta ask yourself, what do you want now? Do you want to stay with her and try to fix this, or is it over for you?" I told him I didn't know. Honestly, I was so hurt I didn't think I could even think straight. All I could feel was the sting of betrayal and this gnawing sense that I'd been played for a fool. After hanging up, I drove around aimlessly, trying to clear my mind, but all that did was make things worse. Every song, every street sign, every fleeting memory of Amber. This was all I could focus on. I kept asking myself how she could lie so effortlessly, how she could betray me on our wedding night, the day I had looked forward to for so long. It felt like my entire world had shattered in that instant. As the night crept in, I realized I couldn't just sit there anymore. I had to do something. I called a lawyer just to get a sense of my options. I didn't want to jump into anything rash, divorce, separation, whatever. I just needed to know what I was dealing with legally. No point in making rash decisions, I told myself. Still, I knew I couldn't go back to that hotel, not that night. I had to find somewhere to stay, somewhere to clear my head. I ended up at a cheap motel nearby just to get some sleep. I remember lying there, staring at the ceiling, replaying that door-opening moment over and over. I kept thinking about all the things I'd missed, all the signs I ignored, all the times she dismissed me with that bitchy smirk. how she had lied straight to my face, how she had betrayed me on our wedding night, the one day I thought I was finally going to be happy. And then I felt this strange mix of emotions, anger, sadness, disgust, but also a strange sense of clarity. I realized that I had been fooling myself into believing this was forever, that she was different. Turns out, she was just like every other woman who thought she could get away with cheating, who thought she could lie her way out of it. But I wasn't going to be a fool anymore. Not after today. I knew I had a long road ahead of me, deciding whether to fight for this or to walk away for good. But I also knew one thing. I'd never forget that feeling, that sting of betrayal. Never again. And somehow, I was going to make her pay for what she did, even if it took everything I had. The next morning, I woke up with that heavy feeling in my chest that I knew wouldn't go away anytime soon. Everything from the night before kept replaying. Her sneering face, her lies, the way she looked when she was caught. I was furious, not just at her but at myself. How could I have been so blind? I always thought I was the guy who saw through bullshit, who trusted his instincts, but somehow she managed to slip past all that and lie right to my face. I spent most of the morning just sitting in that motel room, trying to piece together what I was going to do next. I knew I couldn't just forget about it, not without some kind of plan. I was angry enough to want to destroy everything she'd built with me, but I also knew I had to be smart. I couldn't just explode and ruin everything without thinking through the consequences. Still, what she did, what she almost did, had to be addressed. My first move was to look through my phone and her social media accounts. I knew I needed evidence, hard proof of her infidelity. I wasn't just going to walk away with a broken heart. I wanted to make sure she understood I knew the truth. I scrolled through her messages, her photos, her recent calls. There was plenty there, texts from Mark, late-night messages, flirtatious emojis, proof enough that she'd been cheating on me for weeks, maybe longer. I felt a mixture of disgust and betrayal, but also a strange surge of clarity. I couldn't stay silent. I had to confront her properly with everything on the table. I made a decision. If I was going to do this, I'd do it right. No more hiding, no more pretending I didn't see what was right in front of me. I was going to call her. I dialed her number, and after a few rings, she picked up, sounding annoyed. "What do you want?" she snapped, her voice still bitter. "I want to talk," I said, voice low but firm. "You lied to me last night, Amber. You cheated on me. I saw you, and I've got the proof." There was silence on the line, her breathing heavy. "Oh, come on, Jay. Don't be so dramatic. It was just sex." "It meant nothing," she replied, trying to brush it off. "Just sex. Are you kidding me? You were sneaking around, lying to my face, and you think it's just nothing. You think I'm stupid." I couldn't help the anger that seeped into my voice. "You're a selfish bitch, Amber. I trusted you, and you threw it all away for some bullshit fling with Mark. I don't know what the hell you're trying to justify, but I promise you this isn't over." Her voice cracked, but she still kept trying to lie her way out. "Jay, listen. You're overreacting. I was stressed, and I didn't mean for it to happen. It was a mistake, a one-time thing. You have to believe me." I scoffed. "A mistake on our wedding night? You're a liar. You've been lying for weeks, and I'm done being a pawn in your game. I want a divorce, Amber. I want out of this nightmare." She hung up on me then, probably realizing I wasn't buying her bullshit anymore. I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness after that call. At least I knew she was lying, and I'd finally confronted her. But it didn't make the pain any easier. I knew I'd have to face a lot more, talking to her face to face, dealing with all the lies she'd told, and figuring out what I wanted to do about this mess. I spent the rest of that day making arrangements. I called my boss, told him I needed a few days off, and started packing some of the essentials from my apartment. I didn't want to go back there, not yet. I needed space, time to process all of this. My mind was racing with questions. How had I missed all the signs? Why did she do this? Was I even enough for her? I kept coming back to that last thought. What did I do wrong? But deep down, I knew that wasn't the point. She chose to cheat. She made that decision. By late afternoon, I was finally on my way out of town, heading back to my parents' place. I didn't tell anyone what had happened yet. I just needed to be alone with my thoughts. All I knew was that I'd never look at her the same way again. And somehow, I was already planning my way out of this, getting her back. Not because I wanted to get back together, but because I wanted her to pay for what she did. I wasn't just going to walk away without consequences. She was going to regret betraying me, I promised myself that much. The drive back to my parents' house was the hardest thing I'd done in a long time. Every mile, every turn, I kept replaying everything. The lies, her sneering face, the way she tried to justify what she did like it was nothing. I felt hollow, like someone had taken a knife and twisted it right into my chest. I'd trusted her, loved her, and she had thrown it all away over some stupid fling. Honestly, I'd never felt so betrayed in my life. It was like the ground had shifted beneath my feet and I was left trying to find something solid to stand on. When I finally got there, my mom and dad greeted me with concern, but I wasn't ready to talk. I just needed to be alone. I went straight to my childhood room, sat on my bed and stared at the ceiling. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind kept racing with thoughts of her, her lying, her bitchy attitude, her sneering smile as she tried to deny everything. I wondered how. I'd missed the signs, how I'd been so blind. I kept asking myself, was I ever enough for her? And how could she do this on our wedding night? The pain was sharp and it cut deep. Over the next few days, I kept a low profile. I didn't answer her calls or texts. Every time I thought about her, anger boiled inside me. I knew I had to do something, but I wasn't sure what. Part of me wanted to confront her face to face, to see her reaction, to make her feel what I felt. But another part of me just wanted to cut her out completely, erase her from my life. I felt like I was caught in this terrible limbo, stuck between pain and rage, trying to find some clarity. One afternoon, I decided I'd had enough of hiding. I reached out to Mark, her lover, her stupid mistake. I wanted to hear what he thought, why he did it, if he even cared about what he'd destroyed. I knew I wasn't just angry at her anymore. I was furious at both of them. I sent a message, not even expecting him to reply, but to my surprise, he did. He apologized, said he thought Amber loved him, but after what happened, he realized she was just using him. That didn't make me feel any better. If anything, it just made me more determined to make her see what she'd lost. I started planning my next move. I knew I couldn't just sit around feeling sorry for myself. I had to do something more strategic, something that would hurt her as badly as she'd hurt me. I remembered some of the things I'd seen online during the days I was in shock. The kind of revenge plots that involved exposing her lies, maybe even posting her cheating on social media. I wanted her to feel humiliated, to see what it was like to lose everything she thought was hers. But I didn't want to rush into anything reckless. I knew I had to be smart. I started gathering evidence, screenshots, texts, photos that proved her infidelity. I kept it all hidden, waiting for the right moment. I also contacted a lawyer, just to make sure I understood my rights if I decided to split or take any legal action. I wasn't sure what I was going to do yet, but I knew I had to make her pay somehow. She'd taken everything from me, the trust, the love, that sense of security, and I wasn't going to let her walk away unscathed. That night I sat alone in my old room, staring at the ceiling again. I felt this strange mix of sadness and anger, but underneath it all, a growing sense of resolve. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I wasn't going to let her ruin my life and walk off like she hadn't just shattered everything I believed in. She might have cheated, lied, and dismissed me like I was nothing, but I was still here. And I was going to make her regret what she did, one way or another. I didn't know exactly how yet, but I knew I was done being the victim. It was time to fight back. Weeks went by in a blur of cold silence, planning, and a growing sense of purpose I wasn't sure I had in me before. I kept my evidence hidden, always watching, waiting for the right moment. Every time I saw her name pop up on my phone, I felt that familiar mix of anger and heartbreak. But I forced myself to stay calm. I knew she was trying to reach out, trying to manipulate her way back into my life, but I wasn't having it anymore. The trust was gone, and honestly, I didn't want her back. I just wanted her to feel what she'd done, that deep, suffocating pain of betrayal. Finally, I decided enough was enough. I arranged to meet her face to face. I wanted her to see me, to understand that I knew everything, that I wasn't hiding anymore. I picked a neutral spot, a quiet coffee shop where I could confront her without the chaos of her trying to spin her lies. I sat across from her, calm but cold, and laid everything out, proof of her cheating, her lies, her manipulations. I watched her face twist as I revealed the screenshots, the texts, the photos. Her sneering smirk faltered, and for the first time I saw real panic in her eyes. She tried to deny it, of course. Said I was just overreacting, that Mark was just a friend, that everything was a mistake again. But I cut her off. I told her she could keep lying, that I didn't care anymore, that I'd seen enough, that her game was over. I didn't yell or scream. I just looked at her with the coldest expression I could muster, because I knew that I'd already won, not in the way she wanted, but in the way that mattered most. I was finally free. I told her to pack her things and leave, that I didn't want any more lies, any more bullshit. She argued, tried to guilt-trip me, said I was overreacting, that she loved me, that it was just sex, but I wasn't buying her anymore. I was done being the fool she played. I left her sitting there, furious and defeated, knowing she'd finally lost everything she'd taken for granted. The aftermath was as brutal as I expected. She moved out within days, trying to spin it as some crazy, jealous reaction. But I knew better. I was done with her lies, done with pretending everything was okay when it was. I filed for divorce, and even if it hurt like hell, I felt a strange sense of liberation. I finally saw her for what she was. A manipulative, selfish woman who thought she could walk all over me and get away with it. That day I realized I'd been holding on to a fantasy, one that was never real. Looking back, I learned a lot from this nightmare. I learned to trust my gut, to see the warning signs I'd ignored, and most importantly, to never let anyone make me feel small or unworthy again. I learned that sometimes the only way to get justice is to take control and make the pain work for you. I still feel the sting of betrayal, but I also feel stronger. I'm rebuilding my life now, day by day, with a sharper sense of who I am and what I deserve. And if there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's this. Don't ignore the signs, don't dismiss your feelings, and never settle for betrayal. Because in the end, the only way to truly heal is to stand up, face the truth, and walk away knowing you're better than the lies someone tried to feed you. I did that, and I'm finally free.